Hello friends, my name is Dr. Rakhi Gupta. I am from Faculty of Commerce, Banaras Hindu University, BHU, Varanasi. In my last lecture, I was talking about functions of HRM. So, in this lecture also, I am going to talk about functions and scope of HRM. So, let us have a look. So, my dear friends, I was talking about functions of HRM, and in my previous lecture, I covered the managerial functions, procurement and development. So, in this lecture, I am going to talk about compensation, integration and maintenance functions. They are actually the operative functions. Let me talk about the third one, which talks about the compensation. Now, compensation is basically the amount which is being paid by the company for the work done by the employees. Compensation can be in the form of wages and salary. As I told you earlier, let me reiterate. Salary is always given to the skilled people, whereas wages they are given to the semi-skilled or unskilled people. So, who is going to decide about your salary? It is again the functions of the HR management or the HR department. What are the things which have to be included in your salary structure? The deduction part, or maybe anything related with your HRA, anything which is related with your DA, or anything which is related with your tax, anything which is related with your insurance. So, all those things they are actually handled by the HR department, and compensation is a very important task which the HR has to handle, and you are only able to get your salary well on time. It is only because of the efforts of the HR department, because HR department has to take into consideration lot of things before they finalize on your salary figures. The second part is related with your job evaluation. So, compensation is actually a broader concept of the operative functions, and in the case of compensation job evaluation. Now, in simple parlance, if I tell you what is job evaluation, in just one line, it basically means evaluating the worth of a job in terms of money. How much money are you entitled to get for one particular job? They can be different job profiles. Every job profile will have a different call for different kind of skill set, different labor set. For example, somewhere in some jobs you may have more of physical labor, in some of the jobs you may have more of mental labor. It all depends what kind of efforts you are putting it. So, job evaluation is basically a method by which people they tell you how much money you are entitled to get for the work which you have actually done. So, this is again the prerogative of the HR department who decides what deductions to be made or how the calculations have to be done. The next one is related with this wage and salary. Now, wage and salary is basically what? It is just known as the direct compensation, the direct compensation that the company is actually giving you as a reward of work done. So, again the entire calculation part for every employee of the company, irrespective of the level, top, middle, bottom, everyone is working for money. So, for everyone the entire calculation part is all done by the HR department. Next, it talks about the bonus and incentives. Now, bonus and incentives, they are one of the big ways of motivating people in the company. So, how much bonus has to be given, what kind of incentive has to be given, whether it is the individual incentive or the group incentive, what is the amount, what is the percentage, it is again all done by all the calculation, the HR metrics, HR analytics, it is all done by HR department. Another one is all payroll. Now, as an employee, there are two ways, whether you are on the payroll of the company or whether you are not on the payroll of the company. So, if you are on the payroll of the company, you are entitled for some extra benefits. Maybe you are on the bands or maybe on the scales. The salary calculation will be slightly different. But in case if you are not on the payroll, if you are on the consolidated, then you will be devoid of certain benefits in terms of your insurance or maybe in tax or maybe in form of NPS or maybe provident fund, whatever it is. So, the entire work has to be carried out by the HR department to make a difference between who are the people who are on the payroll and how much money has to be given to them in form of bonus, incentives and in form of their wage and salary. The next point which is mentioned on this slide is all related with the integration. It actually includes the motivation of the employees. Discipline and grievances are the two sides of the same coin. Now, when we talk about discipline and grievances, if there are grievances, those grievances they have to be redressed as soon as possible, and discipline and motivation they also go in hand. If you are disciplined, you are performing, again all 3 P's, profitability, productivity and performance. If all 3 P's are good, definitely you will be motivated in a different manner as compared to the people who are non-performers. So, in the case of integration function, the first is about the motivation. So, here I am not going to talk much, but you should only understand that there can be some monetary and non-monetary form of motivation of the employees. It all depends upon your condition, upon your rank, upon your grade and so on and so forth. The second one, it talks about the job satisfaction. Now, on the other hand side, when people or employee they feels dissatisfied or discomfort, then this is known as grievance. Now, if people are happy and satisfied, again I will reiterate TRS, trust, respect and support, it will automatically come in. But if people are dissatisfied or they have their own complaints, so those grievances have to be sorted as soon as they are identified, because a small problem it can become a very grave problem and it can take the shape of the dispute. So, it is how people will be satisfied. There are different ways by which people can be satisfied. Money is not only the thing, but maybe some kind of fringe benefits that are given to them. Fringe benefits they can be in the form of monetary and the non-monetary. So, again the HR department will decide how things have to be handled. Then we have grievance redressal. Grievance redressal is again a way. First of all, it is very essential to identify the grievance. So, there can be different ways of identification of grievances. For example, there can be some kind of open door policy, there can be some kind of observation, there can be some kind of grievance boxes that can be installed at different places. So, HR department takes into consideration where people are lacking, what is missing, what people need and the company is not able to give them. So, grievance redressal is one of the most important functions of HR. Next is about the collective bargaining. As I was talking about industrial relation in my previous lectures, so it is a relationship between employers and employees. So, whenever there is a fight between the two, one of the ways of settlement is all related with collective bargaining agreement. An agreement is signed between the employers and the employees, and the terms of employment they are mentioned, and it is expected that both the employers and the employees they will follow the terms and conditions which are mentioned in the collective bargaining agreement. So, who initiates this? Again, it is just the HR department. Then, as you can see on the screen, the next is all related with conflict management, participation of employees and discipline. Now, once we talk about the conflict management, is basically said that all the people in the company they may not be happy and satisfied. There may be conflicts which have to be resolved. So, identification of conflict is important, and people may have conflict with their superiors, with their subordinates, with their colleagues. Again, the efforts are made to reconcile their conflicts at the own level, but if they are not able to do it, then there is a 7-step ladder procedure which is followed. So, that 7-step ladder procedure is again taken care by HR professionals. Then we have participation of employees. Participation of employees basically means that people are made to work at different levels. Workers' participation, people are made cut. The next point is related with participation of employees. Participation of employees basically means one can only feel happy and satisfied when some kind of importance is given to the people, and it is only possible when they have a say in the management, when their voices are heard. So, one of the best ways of making the people participate in the affairs of the company is by taking their views and suggestion, or by giving them a position on the board of directors, or asking them for their better views on particular situation or how a particular situation can be handled. The last one is that is mentioned on the screen is related with discipline. Now, discipline is nothing but is just adherence to the rules and regulation. One simple thumb rule, my dear friends, If you adhere to the rules and regulations of any organization, all 3 P will automatically will come: your performance, your productivity and the profitability, and that is what the company wants. Here I would like to mention about one aspect which is known as a red hot stove rule. So, that red hot stove rule is very simple. So, here it says that if there is a red hot stove and if you touch it, irrespective of the person who is touching, the person will get hurt, and it will be a kind of a learning lesson for others. Same is the case in the case of discipline. If anybody misbehaves or does any kind of misconduct, there are penalties which are given, and this penalty will be a kind of a learning lesson for others to follow. That is, they will not follow the same mistake or do or commit the same kind of misconduct. The last one is all related with maintenance. Now, maintenance, it talks about the health, safety and social security. There is an act which is known as Factories Act of 1948. And in that Factories Act of 1948, all the provisions are mentioned related to the health, safety and welfare. For example, about the ambulance facilities, about drinking water, about creche facility, washing facility, their working hours, their sitting arrangement, so on and so forth. So, again it is again the duty or the function of HR that has to take care that they have to ensure that the provisions of various labor laws, they are effectively implemented in any organization. Another one is all related with the social security and the welfare schemes. Social security laws, as I discussed earlier with you, they are all related with the Provident Fund or maybe Gratuity Act, Compensation Act, Bonus Act, so on and so forth. Then it talks about the personnel records. All the records of the employees right from the time they have been employed or they have joined the organization till the time they leave the organization, the entire record or maintenance of the record is all done by HR department. For any effective decision making, the records, they have to be updated every now and then. So, this update is all done by the HR professionals. Lastly, it talks about the personnel research and personnel audit. Personnel research is again there, the HR department is on continuous foot to find out where my people are lacking, what it is that making my people happy and satisfied, what kind of contribution they are making to the society or to the organization. There is a concept which is also known as HR accounting. It basically talks about how much money the company is spending on you and how much money you are giving in return. So, again that HR accounting part is all handled by the HR faculty or HR department or HR personnel people. And lastly, personnel audit is done. They find out the decisions which have been taken by the company in respect of recruitment, in respect of selection, in terms of training and development, to what an extent they have been effective. And again, if there is any deviation, the actions, corrective actions are taken, and that is what is known as the controlling, which we discussed in the managerial function of HR. Now, let me come to the another topic which is related to the scope of HRM. The scope of HRM is indeed very vast and wide. It includes all activities starting from manpower planning till employee leaves the organization. Accordingly, the scope of HRM consists of acquisition, development, maintenance, retention and control of human resources in the organization. Now, there is a concept which is known as ADR. That means, how you are going to attract the people to your organization, how you are going to develop the people and how you are going to retain the people. The scope is actually revolving around all these factors, and we have already discussed something related with recruitment. We want the best people from the industry to join our company. So, it is only possible once we have good will or good reputation of the company. So, that for that it is essential that the people are happy and satisfied. Then in the scope of HRM, it extends to the various aspects such as HRP, design of the organization and job, selection, staffing, training and development, organizational development, compensation and benefits, employee assistance and labor unions or labor relationship. Now, as I told you, HRP is nothing but is just related with the demand and supply of the workforce. Then organization structure, it is just the creation of the authority which is being done. There is delegation of work which is done. Again, it is all done by the HR department only. Providing effective trainings, you have to make a decision who are the people who will be given training or who are the people who will be developed. If the decision is taken regarding development, so what kind of plans have to be initiated, or what kind of compensation. Compensation is basically the direct compensation in terms of wages and salaries, bonus, incentives, or maybe the increments. All that thing is all taken care by HR department. Another slide, it talks about the major scope of HRM. It's all related with budgeting, job analysis, recruitment, onboarding, payroll, training, operation, engagement, grievances and compliances. More or less the concept has been explained to you, but budgeting is one of the most important scope of HRM. Why? Because every company has limited money. If you remember the slide which I had shown on 4M, minimization of the cost. One of the objectives of HRM is to minimize the cost wherever they are able to do it. So, every activity of the HR has to be done within limited budgets which are sanctioned by the top management. So, there are limited budgets for the recruitment and selection, there are budgets for training and development, for the executive development, so on and so forth. So, we have already discussed things related with job analysis. It talks about the job description and job specification. Recruitment is all about the creation of the pool of effective candidates from where we can get the best candidates. Onboarding is basically the selection part. We are matching the requirement of the company with the candidate, and the best suited candidate is selection. The job is offered, and from the prospective employee, he becomes the employee. Then we talk about the payroll, it is all about the compensation part that we just discussed. Then it is all related with training, enhancement of the skill or brushing up of the skills. Operations, it is all related with the work which has to be actually done by the people, and the performance appraisal has to be done by the HR. Then engagement part, the entire engagement, employee engagement, right from their motivation, direction, learning, leadership, supervision, it is all done by the HR department. HR department ensures that people are engaged, they are contributing their maximum to the development of the company, and the objectives, the predetermined objective of the company, they are attained in the best possible manner at least cost. Then the grievances is all related with the slight complaints, dissatisfaction level. So, this dissatisfaction level has to be removed immediately as soon as it is identified. So, there can be different ways by which the grievances can be identified, because HR basically relates with the concern. The concern is for people, concern is for the performance, and the concern is for the innovation. So, all these concerns will only be possible when HR has the compliances of everything, compliances of transparency, compliances of labor laws that have been initiated, and of course, taking in cognizance the satisfaction level of the employees. So, this was the major scope of HRM. However, if you the chart that you see on the screen is again from my own book on HRM, Human Resource Management. I am about to end this lecture very soon. As you can see on the screen, the scope has been mentioned in different way. It is in respect to cost, control, maintenance and development part. Now, we already know about the cost. We all know that the cost has to be less. The company would like to spend less of money, and the company would like to get the maximum benefit. So, it is only possible when HR plans everything in the best possible manner, and they are able to get the best human resource from the various industry who can contribute maximum to the attainment of the goals of the company. So, it says that in the case of HR audit, the audit is always done from time to time to identify whether the activities which are being performed by the HR, it is in coherence with the ethics or no. Then HR accounting, as I told you, it is all related with the concept of the money which is the company is spending on you and how much return you are actually giving back to the company. So, if you are giving more back, to the company, that means you are a very productive employee, and if you are giving less, that means something is going wrong somewhere which has to be taken cognizance of. Then it talks about the HRIs, that is Human Resource Information System. As I told you, the HRI system is has to be updated. The entire detail related to the employee, it all has to be fed into the system, so that the any information, it can be traced at any point of time. Then you can also see about C, it talks about the HRP, recruitment, selection and placement. So, we have already talked about that everything has to be done in a very controlled manner and in a very efficient manner, whether it is related to recruitment, creation of the pool of the eligible candidates, whether it is related with selection of the right candidate, or it is related with the induction part, introduction part, what type of program you are initiating, 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 7 days. It's all again the work of the HR department to take care of. Then in the slide you can see that there is M and D, that is maintenance. Remuneration part, it talks about the compensation. The remuneration has to be the best in the industry, because as an employee, as an individual, there is one unique quality which we have, and this unique quality is of retaliation. We can always retaliate, we can always make a shift from one organization to the another organization. It is very easy for a it's very easy for an employee to shift from one organization to organization, but who suffers the most? It is the company, because the company has spent time, energy, money on you, and the moment you are trained, you immediately leave the company. So, the remuneration part has to be great in the company. So, the HR department ensure that the salary packages that are offered, they are competitive and they are good enough to retain the productive employees. Then we talks about the motivation, health and safety, social security measures, IR part and the performance appraisal. So, the scope is vast. The HR takes into the consideration the motivation part. There are different motivation stories or the theories which have been chalked out, and people work accordingly. Then health and safety, the measures of Factories Act of 1948, they have to be well implemented. It's all the part of the IR. And of course, the performance appraisal has to be done in a transparent manner, because the kind of money that they get in form of increment, bonus, incentives is all a decision that is based on it's all the decision which is based on performance appraisal. And lastly, it talks about the training, career development, organizational development, internal mobility. We all know that all these things, the development has to be taken care by the HR. So, almost concluding my lecture, there is a slide which I want to show it to you. I am almost heading to the end of this lecture. On this slide, you can see that the National Institute of Personnel Management, Calcutta, now Kolkata, has specified the scope of HRM as follows: the labor personnel aspect, the welfare aspect, IR aspect. Now, labor aspect is all related with the manpower planning, recruitment, selection, placement, promotion, training and development, layoff and retrenchment, remuneration, incentives and productivity. We just talked about all these aspects, and I am sure you might have got a better view of them in a bird's eye view. The second aspect, it talks about the welfare aspect. It deals with the working condition, amenities, canteen, creche, lunch rooms, housing, transport, medical assistance, education, health and safety. These are the things which are talking about welfare. So, if welfare aspect is present, people are happy and satisfied. And here again I would like to reiterate that the health, safety, welfare aspects have been well mentioned in the Factories Act of 1948. And lastly, it talks about the industrial relation aspect. This covers the union management relation, joint consultation, collective bargaining, grievances, disciplinary action, settlement of dispute, so on and so forth. Thus, the scope of HRM is extensive and far-reaching. Therefore, it is very, very difficult to define it concisely. So, thank you so much. So, in this lecture, I have just covered the various functions of HRM along with the scope. I shall continue with the next topic in my next lecture. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for the next lecture.